Welcome to the Brooks Center for the Performing Arts. Please take a moment to locate your nearest emergency exit. Exits are located in the front, in the rear, and on the sides of the auditorium. Thank you.
Good evening. Good evening. Good evening, and thank you for being here tonight, whether you are here with us in person or joining us on the live stream for this very special event. I'm honored to welcome to Clemson Yolanda King, the only grandchild of the late Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. Would you please just give her a warm welcome? Yolanda is an author, a passionate speaker, and a difference maker who not only brings much needed attention to numerous issues, but also seeks to find solutions. We're fortunate to have Yolanda with us tonight to share her thoughts and her perspective. Thank you, Yolanda, for taking the time to be here this evening to help us remember and celebrate the life of your grandfather, Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. I know that you have a very powerful message to share tonight, and we all look forward to hearing your words. I would also like to thank the entire MLK Celebration Committee led by Rebecca Harkless, Director of the Harvey and Lucinda Gant Multicultural Center. Thank you for planning this amazing celebration. This committee, as you know, worked incredibly hard planning a wonderful series of events this year, and for that we are all very thankful. If you served on the committee, would you just please stand and accept our thanks? Also want to offer my special thanks to my dear friend Max Allen, who serves as our Senior Vice President and Chief of Staff, and he also serves as our Interim Chief Diversity Officer. Max could not be here this evening, but I want to thank him for his outstanding leadership and his work as we strive for an environment that promotes inclusive excellence. Would you please help me thank Max for all that he does? So diversity and inclusive excellence are key priorities in our strategic plan. We are making progress thanks to the hard work of a lot of people on this campus, many of whom are in this room this evening. We're working to create more opportunities and to provide more support for students from underrepresented populations, and we are reaching out in new ways. Since I arrived in Clemson in 2013, our enrollment of underrepresented minority students has more than doubled. We went from about 1,800 students of color to more than 3,600. In terms of faculty and staff, since 2013, we have seen a 22% increase in the number of African American and Hispanic faculty and staff. We have been recognized as a national leader in our efforts across the university thanks to the work of many, receiving the Higher Education Excellence in Diversity Award from Insight into Diversity magazine for the 6th straight year. And we were recently named a diversity champion for the 5th consecutive year, one of only a few select universities to hold this honor. So we are on a mission to increase access to education and to continue building an environment that promotes inclusive excellence. Our keynote speaker this evening is also on a mission this year to commemorate the 60th anniversary of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s speech, "I Have a Dream," and to continue being an advocate for change. And this year, Clemson is honoring our very own 60th anniversary of desegregation on our campus, which started with Harvey Gantt. There are many reasons to celebrate our success to this point, but we must not forget this is and always will be an ongoing process. And although we are making progress, we all know we still have very important work to do. I hope the events of our MLK celebration will encourage a lot of thoughtful discussion on this campus about how we keep making progress towards being the best university that we can be for everyone, and that Clemson will become a national model in higher education where everyone feels welcome and everyone feels valued, and a place where everyone can succeed. I know that I can count on all of you to help as we continue to make a difference together. And finally, I'm proud that we have a 41-year history of celebrating the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So thank you. Thank you all for being here tonight. There are other places you could be. Thank you for being here. As we look forward to an amazing keynote address, a question and answer conversation, performances by our amazing, outstanding, and incredible Clemson University Gospel Choir, and the presentation of our MLK Excellence in Service Awards. So I hope you enjoy the evening, and I hope you enjoy the program. I'd now like to turn the podium over to Jatorian Williams, current president of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity here at Clemson. Would you please help me welcome him to the podium? May God bless you all, and go Tigers.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jatorian Williams, and on behalf of the 2023 MLK Planning Committee, the Gant Multicultural Center, and the Pi Alpha chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, I am excited that you chose to join us here tonight to honor Clemson's 41st annual Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. commemorative service. Thank you again, President Clements, for that great welcome. The MLK Planning Committee has worked extremely hard to bring you a great program this evening, and we appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to be with us here on tonight. I want to extend a special thank you to President Clements, Dr. Chris Miller, and Provost Bob Jones for their presence here tonight and their tremendous support of the MLK celebration. Tonight is a very special night. For the past 41 years, Clemson University has taken the time to pause, recognize, and celebrate the life and legacy of the late Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. In the interest of time, I will not read through the entire history of our celebration. However, we do have a detailed history of the celebration in a digital program, and I encourage each of you to take the time to read and learn more about the history here at Clemson University. If you have not already done so, please scan the QR code to access tonight's program. Additionally, for those watching online, the link has been provided on the screen. With passion and persuasion, Dr. King called upon our nation to match his words with his deeds, to make the American dream a reality for all, regardless of race, religion, class, or background. This is a great time to honor and celebrate a man who led a movement, a man willing to give his life freely for a cause of what he believed in. In the spirit of tonight's theme, Continuing to Dream, our goal is to critically engage the campus community in reflecting, honoring, and recognizing the commitment of so many individuals who gave their lives during the civil rights movement of the past and present, and in turn, challenge ourselves to continue these legacies. As you can see, we have an outstanding program here tonight, and we are honored to have a direct legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. with us here tonight. Now, we will have a musical selection.
Good evening, everyone. Nelson, thank you for that beautiful selection. I am Alexander Brown, and I am the co-president of the Clemson University chapter of the NAACP here, and I am honored to introduce to you tonight's speaker. Born on May 25th, 2008, in Atlanta, Georgia, to Martin Luther King III and Andrea Waters King, Yolanda Renee King is the sole grandchild of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Coretta Scott King. She was named in honor of her aunt, Yolanda Denise King, who died a little more than a year before she was born. As a young activist, Yolanda has earned the respect and admiration of her generation for her outspoken support on the ongoing work to fulfill the great dream her grandfather spoke of and when he shared it with America. She has passionately addressed in mass gatherings and protests against gun violence, homelessness, and the inhumane treatment of refugees seeking asylum on the United States southern border. When she met with President Obama in the Oval Office, Yolanda Renee asked him, "Mr. President, what are you going to do about all these guns?" And in an effort to empower young people all across our country to use their voice for good, Yolanda has made a splash on the national scene. In June 2022, following the tragic mass shooting in Uvalde, Texas, Yolanda published a column in the Washington Post calling on our generation, her generation, to stand up against gun violence. She's appeared on CNN, MSNBC, NBC News, ABC News, and other national media outlets to carry on the mission that her grandfather gave for his life for many years ago. Although both of her parents, and to acknowledge her parent being here, everyone please give her a round of applause for her mother who came in her presence being known. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you. And although both of her parents are energetic social reform activists, they encouraged her to follow her heart in choosing a career, while being a caring and compassionate person. Yolanda Renee has chosen to be a lifelong activist in the human rights sector in her own right, while leaving open options for pursuing her own career and interest. And in a recent interview, Yolanda Renee noted that she had a dream in which her grandfather appeared. And when asked how she interpreted her dream, she responded, "To remember that he is always with me." In 2023, Yolanda, along with her parents, will embark on a year-long effort to commemorate the 60th anniversary of Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech, advocating for policy changes that help Black and brown Americans to realize of the dream that her grandfather spoke out on. After Ms. King speaks, I am excited to come back on stage with her for a short Q&A conversation. And without further ado, I would like to give a warm welcome to our keynote speaker, Yolanda Renee King. Thank you so much.
Speech is upside down. Good evening. Thank you, President Clements, and thank you, Alexander, for introducing me. It is a great honor and pleasure to join you today and to participate in Clemson University's annual Martin Luther King Junior Holiday celebration. I thank the Harvey and Lucinda Gantz Multicultural Center for inviting me to join you this evening. I understand that Clemson is also commemorating the 60th anniversary of the integration of this university by the courageous Harvey Gantz, who went on to become a Clemson-educated architect, and then the twice-elected mayor of Charlotte, North Carolina, the largest city in the state. So thank you, Harvey Gantz, for your inspiring courage and determination and your extraordinary example. I salute all of the African Americans who were the first students to integrate schools, colleges, and universities. Many of them braved gauntlets of hate and violence just to get a decent education. But they walked the walk, and because of them, we have more freedom and educational opportunities than previous generations. The best way we can honor them is to be courageous, and working for improved opportunities for the young people of the next generation. I would like to also congratulate all of this year's recipients of Clemson University's MLK Awards for Excellence. Your outstanding contribution to the fulfillment of Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream is an inspiration to us all. And we look forward to your continued leadership in the years ahead. Lastly, I thank all of you who took part in the Martin Luther King Jr. Holiday Day of Service yesterday. The MLK holiday is unique in that it has become a day of community service all across the country. Of course, we hope that community service will become a way of life for everyone who wants to fulfill his dream. It is gratifying to me that millions of Americans commemorate my grandfather's birthday as a national holiday. But I would like to add that my grandmother, Coretta Scott King, was not only Martin Luther King Jr.'s wife, she was also his partner and co-worker in the civil rights movement. She stood beside him throughout the civil rights movement and after he was assassinated. It was her leadership that was instrumental in making his birthday a national holiday. It's important to understand that the MLK holiday did not just automatically happen. In fact, there were some powerful forces working against it, and they did everything they could to try and defeat it. By passing the MLK holiday required a dedicated multiracial movement. Fortunately, we had somebody who had the vision and knew how to organize such a diverse coalition, and her name was Coretta Scott King. I want to share a few words with you regarding what my grandfather said in his first book, Stride Toward Freedom, about his wife and partner, Coretta Scott King. Throughout all these trying and difficult days, Coretta remained amazingly calm and even-tempered. In the midst of the most tragic experiences, she never became panicky or over-emotional. She was always strong and courageous. She seemed to have no fear for herself. She was always a deep consolation to me and supported my every move. I am convinced that if I had not had a wife with the fortitude, strength, and calmness of Coretta, I could not have stood up amid the ordeals and tensions surrounding the Montgomery movement. In the darkest moments, she always brought the light of hope. I never met my paternal grandparents in person because they died before I was born. And yet, I feel that I know them well. I have heard stories about them since I was a small child. I have studied their writings, I have listened to tapes of them speaking, and I have watched videos that show them in action. I feel that somehow they are with me, that our spirits are joined in the quest for a just, loving, and peaceful world. I am very proud to be their granddaughter, but I am also challenged by their inspiring legacies of vision, courage, and their competent leadership. But I know that I am not alone because their examples belong to all of us. And we are all challenged to carry forward their unfinished work. This is the spirit we must keep as we commemorate the life and legacy of Martin Luther King Jr. and the leadership of Coretta Scott King in making sure he would be well remembered. I am also very proud of my parents, Martin Luther King III and Andrea Waters King. I am blessed that my father and mother decided to include me in their work to fulfill the dream. As a result, I have already traveled across the country and to other countries, taking part in programs as an advocate of nonviolent social change. It's been quite a unique education, and I am so grateful for it. Raising children to become responsible adults is always hard. That's a core mission of good parents everywhere. But raising children to become responsible and socially engaged adults who work for a who work for a better society, that's an even greater challenge. Parents who do that deserve all the love, respect, and support we can give them. With the support of my parents, I've been involved in campaigns and demonstrations against homelessness, pollution, and gun violence in many different cities. I've supported Black Lives Matter protests against police violence, against George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and others. I've taken part in protests against mistreatment of Latino immigrants on the border between Mexico and the US. I've written articles, done media interviews, and delivered speeches for needed social reforms to fulfill the dream my grandfather shared with America at the Lincoln Memorial in 1963. I'm 14 years old, and I'm just getting started. As I look to the future, I know that whatever career path I choose, I will be involved in nonviolent movements for social change and human rights. I thank my parents for guiding me in that direction. I intend to be that kind of parent as well when my time comes. Meanwhile, I try to do my part and encourage young people everywhere to get engaged in the great work for a better nation and a more peaceful world. All young people I know want to have a good career and create a happy life. This requires preparation, and that means studying hard, getting good grades, and getting some sort of work experience. No matter what kind of career we have, we are also challenged to be good citizens. We are challenged to become people who care about our community, nation, and world, and who are willing to work for causes larger than ourselves. In every generation, young people are called to provide leadership for change, to overcome. We have millions of young people living in poverty and millions more who need help to get a good education. Many other young people are struggling to survive wars and violence in their communities. I think I have a lot more to do in order to empower young people in America. We saw the power and potential of young voters in the 2022 midterm elections. A broad range of social and economic problems we face in America, including gun violence, police brutality, crime, pollution, unemployment, racial discrimination, student debt, and so many other problems can be addressed by legislative reforms. That's why voting rights are so important. As my grandfather once said, the most important step we can take is that short walk to the ballot box. That's why Martin Luther King Jr. and Coretta Scott King led the Selma to Montgomery March for voting rights in 1965. They understood that racial justice and all social reforms depend on a secure right to vote for all citizens, regardless of their race. And let's never forget that people were killed in that historic movement for voting rights. We owe it to the martyrs of the voting rights movement to stand up and commit ourselves to the ongoing struggle for voting rights for all Americans. Even though I am too young to vote, I am not too young to get involved in this movement and support needed voting rights reforms. These include restoring the Voting Rights Act protections, automatic voter registration, expanding early voting, and modernizing voting equipment to prevent long lines on Election Day. Of course, all of these reforms require that we elect enough candidates who will support them. Unfortunately, we have seen a surge in voter suppression laws, most of which are designed to prevent African Americans and students from voting. And now we have a growing problem of election deniers. You see, it's just one of those days. Deniers, people, and even some irresponsible elected officials who refuse to accept certified election results. Our country urgently needs national and statewide reform to protect democracy from those who want to take it away. Even though Congress may be deadlocked, we can win voting rights reforms in many state legislators. Legislation. See, it's just one of those days. I think we're all tired. I should probably get back to my speech. Don't you all agree? Legislation. See, it's just going to find the line. Legislation. Oh my gosh. I am so sorry. Right. But I'm gonna even though Congress may be deadlocked, we can win voting rights reforms in many state legislations, or through many state legislations. But it's up to all of us to get informed about what is going on in the states where we live. I'm going to do my part to educate myself and my peers about needed voting rights reforms in my home state of Georgia. And maybe it's time to start a national discussion about lowering the voting age. Did you know that a person can vote at age 16 in about a dozen countries and jurisdictions? Citizens can vote at age 16 in Austria, Brazil, Argentina, Scotland, Wales, Ecuador, Nicaragua, and some other places. The last time the voting age was lowered in America was in 1971, when the 26th Constitutional Amendment set the voting age at 18 nationwide. That was 52 years ago. Some people might think, well, 16 is pretty young. Do 16-year-olds really have enough maturity to vote? My response simply is that maturity doesn't automatically begin at any particular age. I know some young people who are better informed and more mature than older voters. It may take a long time to lower the voting age in America, but we can start the discussion now. Another issue that I am very concerned about is gun violence. Gun violence is very real to me. I lost my grandfather, Martin Luther King Jr., and my great-grandmother, Alberta Williams King, to gun violence. I am also a member of a generation that has experienced mass shootings in schools, in churches, and synagogues and shopping malls. During the last year, there was the murder of 19 children in their school in Uvalde, Texas. There was also a mass shooting in a grocery store in Buffalo, New York, that was racially motivated. We have seen mass shootings often with AR-15 style weapons all across the nation in recent years. This has to stop. It is too easy to get weapons of mass murder in our country. We urgently need common sense gun safety restrictions on the sale of guns and ammunition before we can feel safe and secure in our places of learning, work, and worship. Many people won't take a 14-year-old seriously when it comes to addressing gun violence. But I know when it is time for change, I know it is my duty as an American to use the platform given to me by my grandparents' sacrifices to uplift the voices of my peers. It is my duty to speak up as a child who lost both her grandfather and great-grandmother to gun violence. For too long, voices like mine have been ignored. Imagine going to school every day, wondering whether you and your classmates are next. The fear, anxiety, and frustration are overwhelming. We can't just be kids anymore. Every loud noise in the hallway, every outburst is a reminder. Children who look like me and children who look like your loved ones are all scared. We think about our hopes and dreams being snatched away by a bullet. To people in Washington, this might sound cliche, but as kids, that's what we're taught. We can do anything we set our minds to, until we suddenly can't anymore. It seems like every month, my parents and I talk about a new piece of gun safety legislation that gains traction and media coverage, but ultimately fails. My generation feels powerless against the special interest and extremists who refuse to acknowledge that something must change. But common sense must prevail. To put it bluntly, thoughts and prayers are helpful only after you take action. I do not want to walk into school afraid anymore. I want to be a teenager. I have read a lot of my grandfather's sermons and speeches, and there is one that comes to mind in the wake of all the gun violence tragedies. With this faith, my grandfather said, "We will be able to hew out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope." That is our call to action. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. Words my grandfather lived by. We too must strive to drive out hate in this country. And that begins with action in honor of the victims of gun violence and their families who mourn today. And like my grandparents and my parents, I believe that we must do more to create a culture of nonviolence in America. Gun control especially, a ban on the sale of assault-style weapons, like they just passed in Illinois, is a part of the solution. 9 states have now passed laws banning the sale of these kind of assault weapons. These laws are seeds of hope. But I also believe that we have to do more to discourage the irresponsible celebration of violence in our culture. So many video games glorify violence, and I think it has a bad effect on young people and really anybody. This has actually gotten worse in recent years. I'm calling on young people everywhere to boycott media violence. Don't watch movies or play video games that glorify violence. We have to do our part if we truly want to live in a non-violent society. Instead of patronizing violent media, Seek out entertainment that builds character and appeals to your intelligence. Garbage in, garbage out. Quality in, quality out. The same goes for social media. Culture is something we create with our choices. Let's make better choices. I'm going to close my remarks today with a quote from the unique American leader we are honoring across the nation this week. My grandfather, Martin Luther King Jr. These words come from his book, his final book. Where do we go from here? Chaos or community? My hope is that his call for a new revolution of values will guide us as we strive to build the beloved community of his great dream for our nation and world. This is what he wrote. A true revolution of values will soon cause us to question the fairness and policies and justice of many of our past and present policies. We are called to play the good. We are called to play the good Samaritan on life's roadside. But that will only be an initial act. One day, the whole Jericho road must be transformed so that men and women will not be beaten and robbed as they make their journey through life. A true revolution of values will look uneasily on the glaring contrast of poverty and wealth. A true revolution of values will lay hands on the world order and say of war, this way of settling difference is not just. America, the richest and most powerful nation in the world, can well lead the way in this revolution of values. As Arnold Toynbee once said in a speech, love is the ultimate force that makes for the saving choice of life and good against the damning choice of death and evil. Therefore, the first hope in our inventory must be the hope that love is going to have the last word. May these words and dream of Martin Luther King Jr. guide us as we navigate the challenges of the future. And may the students of Clemson University help lead the way forward in the spirit of Martin Luther King Jr. Thank you, and may God bless you all.
Woo. Woo. That was a word, wasn't it? I told y'all, powerful, powerful. She's powerful. Thank you so much for that. We needed to hear those words, and I appreciate the wise words of encouragement. May each of us now know what it takes to actually be a leader and fulfill the proponents that are necessary to be catalysts of changes of that. Thank you. Let's give her another round of applause, please. Yes, another one. Well, first, I just have to say I'm so excited to chat with you this evening. Thank you so much for coming here again. And I just want to ask, how are you? Like, I know this week has probably been a little busy for you with all the celebrations and stuff, so how are you doing? Good?
I'm doing good.
That's
There's
good.
definitely a lot going on, and there's a whole lot of work that needs to be done, but I'm doing good. I'm trying to, because I know many times we have days of disencouragement, and we feel very disencouraged, and sometimes I definitely feel that, but I'm always trying to find my perseverance and make sure that I persevere.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. That's lovely. And how does it feel to see, your grandfather being celebrated, specifically this week, but for the rest of this month, like for the rest of the year, how does it feel to see that celebration happen?
Well, I think just how everyone everyone is used to their life because they're in their life, and obviously, and so I think it feels normal to me, but also it feels sometimes I think and I'm like, it's really cool that I had a cool grandfather and his and his work and all that he did for the world is really just amazing. And I think that I also feel that we shouldn't just be because you see like all these politicians, I won't put out names today, but you see many public figures glorifying him, but then it's like, do you really live by the dream? So it's also like, I think that it's great that we are definitely glorifying his work, but also at the same time, it's kind of ironic because after that, you're just like continuing to do what you usually do and say the things that you usually do and really create policies that are against the dream and causing us to fall backwards. So I really want to see more. I think that the best way that you can glorify him is really by showing and by really taking action, and you can show that by, especially for our politicians, by passing legislation, by really trying to be there for the people, to really help the people. And so that's what I really want to see.
Absolutely. That was lovely. And we're in a time where, our voting rights are under fire, as you mentioned in your speech, and I think it's so beneficial that we reach out to these politicians and these representatives in that way. So thank you so much. What would you say is the greatest lesson or truth about your grandfather's legacy that impacted your life in that way?
I would say his perseverance, definitely, because this work is not easy at all. There are many times and days, just as I was talking about earlier, where you feel discouraged. And there have been times where I've seriously considered and where I've had sit downs with my parents, and I was like, look, I think I may just walk away from this work. And then I always think about the perseverance of my grandfather and of the people around me, of my parents, and of other activists, and really seeing how they are still staying in the fight even when it's hard, even when it's difficult, even when you want to walk away. That causes me to change my mind and almost turn around and say, you know what, I'm going to stay in this a little longer because something's going to happen, change is going to happen. Because really that time when you feel discouraged is the most important time, because that's when all the hard work happens. It's easy to celebrate. It's very easy to celebrate, but it's really hard when it feels like something is pushing against you. And so generally our instinct is to just walk away and say, oh, this isn't for me. But really that, like you deciding that you are going to stay in there is really what causes the celebration at the end. And so really just seeing both of my grandparents, really seeing both of their perseverance, I would say, is the greatest lesson that I've learned from them, because I think that's the most important trait that you must have for this type of work and for activism.
Absolutely, especially in this fight. Yeah, give it up for her for that. That was amazing. Absolutely, absolutely. And I absolutely love how the fact that you mentioned how his legacy still lingers on to this day. Even in the halls of Congress, with John Lewis being a proponent of ensuring that voter suppression doesn't really occur, and just having the advancement of, the protection of voting rights in that way. So thank you for mentioning that. Awesome. And this is personally like my favorite question. We talked about this backstage. So being a king, people almost kind of expected you to kind of be an activist and to be socially involved. However, you are more than just Dr. King's granddaughter. So how would you say you found your voice in activism, and how could, youth leaders around the world could, find their voice in activism?
Well, I would first, to answer the first part of your question, I first would like to say that my parents never forced me to become an activism. They never said, oh, you have to do this. In fact, they did the opposite, and they would talk to me when I was little, and even now they sometimes do. They say, oh, you don't have to do this work. You can just go on and walk away and just live your life. We're not forcing you to do this. Really, just if this is not your calling, then don't do it. And we understand that this work is hard, and especially for your age. And so they always told me that they never forced me. And I think that's what actually caused me to want to come into it. You know how like when your parents kind of say to do, sounds really bad, but like say to do something, and then you're like, well, what happens if, and like you become a little curious. And so they never told me, oh, stay away from activism. I'm not implying that at all. But they never really forced me to become, they never forced me to become a part of it. But I think really seeing, because I always saw the work around me. I remember when I was 5, we went to this event, and it was an event through We Day, through We, and they have this like huge event called We Day, and I was like only 5 years old, and I remember going to the event, and I think and they brought me, and my dad spoke, and I think that sparked me at a young age to do the work that I did, and I think I always had it in me, because even on the way to school, there would be a bunch of homeless people, and I was like 3 or 4 years old, and I would ask my dad, because he would always drive me to school, how come people are homeless, and what can we do? And then after like asking like a bunch of questions about it, I would then say, I'm going to get a big house and then put all the homeless people, and like house all the homeless people. So that was like at 3 or 4 years old. And then to answer the second part of your question about what young people can do, I think that a big misconception that a lot of people have is that, oh, in order to be considered an activist, you have to be able to get up and speak in front of people, and you just have to be a great public speaker. You could clearly see from my speech, I stumbled a whole bunch of times myself.
Same, yeah.
Stumbled on my words. But also, their activism is about using your platform for good. And so there are so many ways that you can find a platform. So that could be through art, or starting a club, or gathering a group of friends or other passionate people, and finding rallies that talk about an issue that you feel very passionate about, and attending that rally with a group of people. Because really, if you think about it, there would be no rally without the people who show up to the rally. So without the people who show up to the rally would not be considered a rally. And so that really, and you showing up just shows how passionate you are about the issue, and which allegedly puts pressure on our politicians to pass legislation so that we can actually see change. So showing up to rallies, or finding an outlet through art, or organizing a club, or having your community or school do something that really helps bring awareness of an issue. There are just so many ways. So I like to say that activism is about finding a talent, which we all have, finding a platform, something that we enjoy, or something that's creative, and using that for good, using that to make an impact on people's lives.
Absolutely. Thank you for that answer. And I think in this moment, we have such a sense of urgency, our generation, to kind of act on things. And once we kind of find that comfort zone to act on those issues, we do. And we get creative with it, and you kind of find your niche in that way. So thank you for that, absolutely. And lastly, since you are a youth leader, what are some things that people your age could do to get more involved in the community, and especially in our kind of realm of making communities more socially just in that way? We're seeing issues arise every day, so how can youth leaders kind of, jump out there and get more involved?
I think we need to, in order to get more involved, I think we need to engage our politicians, really, because there are so many, while there are a lot of candidates and a lot of politicians who really aren't on the same page as us on these issues. There are so many politicians, and there are many politicians who really want to help and really want to do something. So I think really communicating and collaborating with our politicians, I think that it's important to have conferences and summits, and also allow not just for activists or youth activists, but also allow for our politicians to come to these summits, so that you can almost pitch an idea to them, like, this is what we're talking about, and this is what we want you to do to solve this issue, so that they can therefore go to, the Capitol, or to the local offices and propose this idea and really use their political power to get it done. So I think also it's important to, as I mentioned in the last question, using your platform for good, but I think it's also important to to collaborate more with politicians and meet with them and invite them, organize summits and conferences where not only we see activists and youth activists, but we are also seeing our political leaders there too.
Absolutely. And to your point, I love how you mentioned even in your speech that change kind of starts with a policy. So if we start including people that actually mold the policy in a legislative way, that's when change actually can tangibly happen that way. So thank you for that, absolutely. And is there anything that you want to kind of tell the audience real quick, some wise words of encouragement from you? You have powerful rhetoric and powerful words, so I would love it if you could kind of close us out here. Is there anything else you want to say?
So I just want to say, I know seeing how the state of, seeing like how the state of the Capitol and the leadership of of the Congress, specifically the House of Representatives, and I understand that now because legislation may seem harder to pass and now is the time when we all feel discouraged. Now is the time when we all want to walk away. And trust me, I'm not just saying this. I've felt this to myself. I've definitely considered seriously just walking away from activism and thinking to myself, well, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe nothing is going to get done. Maybe I'm just wasting my time. And now is the time that we need people to really stay engaged. And now is the time where we need the most energy. And then after that, all you have to think is after that is celebration, which is fun.
Absolutely.
And then we go back to work, and then you have to push yourself again. But kind of just think of it almost as you kind of have to have perseverance. I think the lights are engaged too in this conversation. But you have to have perseverance, and then you get to celebrate and almost as a way to rejuvenate, and then you go back to work, and then you work on the next issue. And so really, I know now is the most difficult time, but really we need everyone to stay in. Don't give up, don't give in, don't give out.
Absolutely, and just like these stage lights, keep engaging in darkness, guys. Keep engaging in darkness, absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for
having me.
Absolutely, thank you. And on the behalf of the MLK committee here and the entire Clemson community, we would like to present you a small gift of our appreciation for you coming here, and we hope that you enjoyed your time here in Clemson, and we want you back. So hopefully we'll see you in the near future. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Give it up for her again, guys. Give it up for her again.
Thank you so much. I'm a hugger.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. And now this time we'll have a selection from our gospel choir. Thank you.
And to everyone that will show Actually, let's give them another round of applause. They were terrific. Always inspiring to hear their voices. Thank you so much for what you do. And let's give a round of applause to our speaker, Yolanda King. She was terrific, was. Never give up, never give out, never give up. That was pretty good. So my name is Bobby Clark. I'm the chair of the MLK Award for Service and Excellence. And we are very proud today to be a part of this service and to recognize our 3 award winners from the faculty, from staff, and from our student community. These deserving individuals deserve excellence in the service in one or more of the following areas involved in advancing the King's vision of the beloved community: service to Clemson University or the surrounding community, advocacy or social or environmental justice, service above and beyond direct employment. Dr. King defined the beloved community as a community exclusive of all people, regardless of race, gender, class, ethnicity, that recognizes that people are as individuals first, with each with a unique set of life experiences that shapes their own particular perspectives, and a community where their perspectives are brought together in a collective effort to achieve goals for the common good. We are very proud to have these honorees as a part of our Clemson community. And at this point, I think I will ask President Clemens to come forward. As we recognize the 3 award winners. Thank you, President Clemens. Good to see you too. Our first award winner is Ms. Dr. Natasha Kroom, awarded the Martin Luther King Award for Excellence in Service in the Faculty. Please give her an award. I'm sure we did. As she takes a picture with President Clemens, let me read some of the comments from her nominators. Her nominators said that we cannot think of a more deserving colleague for the 2023 Martin Luther King Service Award Excellence winner. Dr. Natasha Kroom's research and personal life are centered around values, diversity, equity, inclusion, and social justice. Dr. Kroom is a model and an inspiration for us all. A donation will be given on Dr. Kroom's behalf to the Girls Up of Greenville. Congratulations, Dr. Kroom. Our second award winner is Ms. Lisa Jackson. Ms. Jackson is awarded the Martin Luther King Award for Excellence in Service for Staff. Her nominator said of her, Mama Lisa is one of the student go-to persons and celebrates the triumphs too and discuss the tragedies for rebounding for their setbacks. She is a repository of all sorts of confidences, finances, family, school, and bright futures. Her day is in our office burst with students talking, eating lunch, soaking up the equality of time with being a member of the Clemson family. Lisa creates an environment where all students feel safe, welcomed, and cared for. She invests in her students with a tremendous gift of time and teaches students how to advocate for themselves as needed. Not only is a job, but a true calling for her. A donation on Lisa's behalf will be made to the Lupus Foundation of America in memory of her daughter, Brianna Stoffer, who passed away from lupus. Congratulations, Lisa. Our third and final award winner is an award winner for excellence in the student community. Her name is Brianna Bowen. Ms. Bowen, come please forward. Her nominators said of her, Bree is the future and gives us great hope. She is a great young person of passion and drive, and she uses her talents to bring about a better community and a large community around her. Like Dr. King, she is an excellent critical thinker, collaborator, and communicator. Congratulations, Brianna. Let's give all our honorees another round of applause. And now I believe that will end tonight's service with closing remarks from our 2023 MLK Planning Committee Chair, Ms. Rebecca Harkless, if she would come forward.
Hello. How y'all doing? Y'all look good from up here. Okay, so can we give it up for our awardees one more time? I am so thankful to have you in this Clemson community with us, and I'm gonna ask you to come back on stage. President Clemens, I'm gonna ask you to come back on stage so that we can get another picture, and also, I have a trick. Look at this. So let's give it up for them one more time. Yeah. All right. So as they pose for pictures, we don't have to watch that happen. I'll just go ahead and close this out. But I just want to thank you all for being here tonight. I want to again thank President Clements for being here. Provost Jones, thank you for being here. I saw Vice President Amy Smith. Thank you so much for being here, especially your team and supporting all of the media and all of the things. So thank you so much for being here. And just give yourselves a round of applause. I really appreciate y'all coming out tonight and engaging, whether you did service yesterday, whether you're gonna enter the oratorical contest tomorrow, but just engaging in the Martin Luther King Week celebration. We know that MLK has a legacy, and we also have our own legacy of integration and inclusion here at Clemson. And so we're gonna end this celebration, but we're gonna keep the legacy going for MLK, and then we're moving into the legacy of 60 years of integration starting next week. And so I hope you engage in some of those programs. And so if you're looking to see like what is there to do, you can check out the Gantt Center website, and there's lots of different events and things that you can engage in. But I really hope that you were inspired tonight and that you feel like you are responsible and you have something to do to really change the world that you exist in and change this community. So I thank y'all for being a part of this community. I thank y'all for coming out tonight, and I really appreciate all that you have brought to this space. So have a good night.